I now call to order the reorganization meeting of the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District Board of School Directors. I would like to take a roll call of holdover school board directors. Mr. Bowles? Mr. Vallis?
Here.
Ms. Semino?
Here.
Dr. Downey?
Here.
Grandy?
Here.
Dr. Huff?
Here.
Mr. Cudis?
Here.
Mrs. Lentz?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mrs. Walkman?
Here.
All 9 holdover board members are present. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Written notice of this reorganization meeting was mailed to each school board director on December 2nd, 2020, read. Please be advised that the Wallingford-Swarthmore Board of School Directors will hold their reorganization meeting on Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. At that time, the board will elect its officers for the period of December 7th, 2020 through the first Monday in December 2021. Because of the order specific to Delaware County from Secretary Levine regarding gatherings of more than 10 people, the meeting will be held using the procedures for a remote meeting pursuant to Board Policy 006.1. As part of the applicable procedures as outlined in that policy, school board directors will be asked to confirm their attendance both audibly and visibly. At this time, no comments were received in response to items for action on the agenda. Let's move on to nominations for election of temporary president. May I have a nomination for temporary president?
I would like to nominate Chapin Semino.
Are there any other nominations for the position of temporary president? Hearing none, I declare the nominations are closed. As the nominations are closed, and Ms. Semino is the only candidate nominated, I move for Chapin Semino's election by acclamation for the position of temporary president. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The meeting will now be run by the temporary president.
We will take up nominating our president for the ensuing year. So may I have a nomination for the office of president?
I would like to nominate David Grandy.
Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Okay. Hearing none, I declare the nominations are closed. And as the nominations are closed, and as David Grandy is the only candidate nominated, I move for Dave Grandy's election by acclamation for office of president. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And now I turn the meeting over to our president for the ensuing year.
Thank you, Chapin. That takes us to
are nominations for vice president. And I would like to nominate Kelly Walkman for office of the vice president. Are there any other nominations for office of vice president? Okay. As the nominations are closed and Kelly Walkman is the only candidate nominated, I move for Kelly Walkman's election by acclamation for office of vice president. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, Kelly Walkman is our vice president. So that takes us to our nominations for assistant board secretary. May I have a nomination for the office of assistant board secretary?
I would like to nominate Michelle Downey.
Any other nominations for office of assistant board secretary? Hearing none, I declare the nominations are closed. As the nominations are closed and Michelle Downey is the only candidate nominated, I move for Michelle Downey by acclamation for office of assistant board secretary. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, Michelle Downey will be our assistant board secretary for the next year. Included on our agenda is a listing of in-district committee representatives and out-of-district representatives. These appointments are made by the president and do not require board action, but I do want to read them so everyone is aware of appointments to various roles. First is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Mr. Ballas, Dr. Downey, and Mrs. Walkman will serve on that committee. Our Education Committee will include Ms. Semino, Dr. Huff, and Mrs. Lentz. Finance Committee, Dr. Huff, Mr. Kudis, Mr. Sullivan, and Mrs. Walkman. Policy Committee, Ms. Semino, Dr. Downey, and Mrs. Lentz. Wellness Committee, Mrs. Lentz and Mr. Sullivan. And the Workload Commission, myself, Dr. Grandy, and Dr. Huff. We also have appointments to out-of-district representative roles, of which I will read those as well. We have the Delaware County Community College. Mr. Ballas will serve in that role. The Delaware County Intermediate Unit, Mr. Kudis will serve in that role. Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council, Ms. Semino will serve in that role. And PSBA Liaison, Mrs. Lentz will serve in that role. So that takes us to our school board meeting calendar for calendar year 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the school board meetings for calendar year 2021?
So moved. Jerry Ballas.
Thank you, Jerry. Do I have a second?
Second, Chapin Semino.
Thank you, Chapin. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Ballas,
Yes. Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Downey,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Kudis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to audience recognition for response to topics not on the agenda this evening. And given we're back to virtual, we have our called in comments, and I believe we have some this evening to read. I'm going to ask Kelly to read those.
Okay. We have 6 called in comments to read this evening. From Kevin Henry Melanie's Way in Wallingford, PA. I currently have a sophomore at Strathaven High School. I've written to the board and Dr. Hilden a few times recently, but wanted to continue to show my support for some full-day schools at the high school for the spring 2021 semester. Please understand that my support for full school days is not a criticism of the school board, the administration, or the teachers, but a request to review and amend the hybrid model to make it work better for our kids. The current hybrid model of 2 half days a week is not working for our kids, In fact, it's so disruptive that many parents are choosing to keep their kids home full time as opposed to using the confusing and inadequate hybrid model. On the half days, I see many students scrambling to get to and from school and back on a Zoom class. This model is just not conducive to effective learning. The school district put a lot of effort into getting sports back on the field and on the court, which is great, and especially great for those kids playing sports. But what about the rest of the high school kids who don't play sports? Academics need the same, or I would argue, greater priority. Most of our neighboring high schools have implemented a hybrid model that allows for at least 2 full days of school a week while closely monitoring the community and school-related COVID transmission rates. Surely Strathaven High School can do something similar. Health departments have confirmed that virus transmission rates are due to community spread, not school spread. Dr. Tanya Altman from the American Academy of Pediatrics has recently stated that our focus should be on opening our schools as the benefits far outweigh the risks. Dr. Altman states that on the days kids aren't in school, they tend to gather without masks. The high school students are suffering quietly and not so quietly by being at home so much. I asked the school board to support an updated high school hybrid model that includes some full days. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Our second letter is from Dana Pickup on Sykes Lane in Wallingford. I'm calling in support of the work being done by the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District teachers during this unprecedented time. We have 3 children in the district, 1 in 4th grade at Wallingford Elementary School, 1 in 7th grade at the middle school, and another in 9th grade at the high school. Our family has been overall very impressed with the work being done at each level by the teachers and staff during this unparalleled moment. Surely we all agree, teachers, parents, and students alike, that this is a less than optimal moment in education. Never before have teachers had to reinvent the wheel every few months, yet this is exactly what they're doing. There is no playbook for our teachers to reference, no template or historical framework to turn to. Yet our WSSD teachers are working hard in a way they have not before, and in a way parents may not be able to see as clearly as we did before COVID. I want to thank the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District teachers for all they are doing at this moment and for what they did for our students from March until now. Advanced thanks goes to them too, since surely there will be more reinventing ahead of them and for us before this pandemic is over. During these very challenging times, we applaud our teachers for doing their best and thank them very much. Thank you so much for your time. Our next letter is from Corey Hull in University Place in Swarthmore. I'm the parent of 2 children in the district, 1 in middle school and 1 in the high school. I'm also a graduate of Strathaven High School, where I participated in sports all 4 years I was there. My call today, though, is not about sports, but rather the seemingly endless discussion by the Board of Sports at the complete exclusion of any discussion about the other activities our children are missing out on. I've listened to every board meeting since the start of the pandemic, and month after month, I've seen sports be the primary focus. At the last meeting, the school board spent 1 hour and 53 minutes discussing high school winter sports. That's 51% of a 3-hour and 42-minute long meeting. In contrast, the performing arts were only discussed for 2 minutes, which is less than 1% of the discussion. When the loss of other activities was brought up by one board member, not only was the discussion completely shut down, the topic was never returned to. Mr. Clancy has done a wonderful job with the unimaginable logistics of managing athletics during COVID, and he has become a regular speaker at board meetings. Unfortunately, I can only recall 1 meeting over the summer where the performing arts have been discussed at all. As a former athlete and a parent of them, I do not discount the value of sports. Our children are missing out on many activities outside the classroom, which make up a well-rounded education, and sports is certainly one of them, but all students are suffering. Children who participate in music, theater, visual arts, speech, and debate, the list is endless. To see sports discussed meeting after meeting when every single other activity has either been canceled or severely curtailed, but never mentioned, is disheartening at best. The Wallingford-Swarthmore School District educates several thousand children in grades K through 12, and to be generous, maybe several hundred play sports at the high school level. So why does this one topic deserve so much time and energy meeting after meeting? Since the start of hybrid learning, students at Strathaven High School only has in-person learning for 2 half days each week. Many students at the high school have shifted to online learning as a result of these half days. How can the board devote all this time and energy to sports when they cannot find a way to get these students in school for 2 full days a week? The board has been asked by our state and federal authorities to do the unthinkable and to make important decisions with very little guidance. I cannot imagine how difficult your job has been over the last few months. I thank you for taking on this very difficult task on behalf of our community. I ask that you please keep your focus on running the school district for all children, not a sports league for the select few. Thank you. The next email comes from Michelle Kelly on West Country Club Lane in Wallingford. I would like to thank the coaches and teachers for a successful fall sports season. It was truly amazing. I also would like to thank Jennifer Lentz for bringing up winter sports on the agenda at the last board meeting, although others were not prepared or knowing it was coming. I'm truly disappointed that our winter athletes are not allowed to attend school in person. As a district, we are placing emphasis on an inclusive environment, yet we are excluding students that are proud to be part of our school. These students, when they're participating in athletics, we know where they are, we know who is there, we know what these students are doing, and they are being supervised using very defined guidelines. Keeping these students at home is completely counterintuitive to the overall district strategy. You are simply excluding high school student athletes from in-person learning. I'm also truly disappointed in our lack of forward thinking, as most of our board members want to delay or ignore major decisions. The second high school semester is coming at the end of January. The spring season for sports is coming too. Graduation isn't far away and the new school year is just around the corner. What are the board's recommendations? What are our options? How will you communicate with all of us in the community? Our children are impacted by these decisions, and not making a decision is a decision. I'm asking you to please consider our students, our teachers, and our coaches' needs and commit to a plan focused on moving us forward. Because if you do nothing when the rest of the world is moving forward, we will be moving backwards. Thank you. Our next letter comes from Heather Sullivan, Blue Hill Road, Wallingford, Pennsylvania. I spoke to the school board in a prior meeting and Dr. Hilden on the telephone about the need for the hybrid high school students to be in person for 2 full days instead of only 2 half days. 1 face-to-face class per subject per week is not enough. They're already on campus for half the day. Let them have more time with their teachers who are already on campus as well. If lunch is what is preventing this, Dr. Hilden had a great solution to plow through the 4 blocks without lunch. Other school districts are doing this. I also have other suggestions I'd be happy to discuss. So what and or who is preventing this from happening? And what is your plan going forward to make this happen? Thank you for your time. And our final letter comes from Emily Moyer on Hoyt Place in Wallingford. Dear school board, I want to thank the board for approving the work that is happening towards the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a busy and hectic time for our teachers and administration due to issues of COVID and remote learning, but lessons of inclusion are centuries overdue in this country. It's disappointing to me to hear a small minority of parents be dismissive of these efforts or fail to recognize their scope. This training is important to provide our teachers with resources to help all our children develop strong positive identities, and especially those who identify with a non-Christian religion, a non-white race, a non-binary gender, or non-heterosexual orientation. I appreciate these ongoing efforts and consider the time and energy very well spent. As a parent and community member, I want you to know I'm supportive of this as I can be. Thank you. That concludes tonight's phone-in comments.
Thanks, Kelly. Just want to thank those individuals who called in their comments and those who continue to communicate with the board. Related to that last comment, Kelly, I don't know, are we prepared to give any further updates this evening?
Sure.
Just to diversity, equity, and inclusion? I know we don't have a full board meeting this evening, but I'm wondering if you wanted to provide an update in that regard.
Sure. I wanted to share an important update with the community. On November 23rd, the board voted to approve a contract with Tom Stecker and Associates to perform an equity audit of the district. Stecker and Associates is a highly respected educational consulting firm in our region and was recommended to us by a leading organization on equity and education, as well as district personnel who've worked directly with Mr. Stecker in the recent past. On November 25th, Leadership from the WSS Big Idea Group met with our DEI committee and shared concerns expressed by some community members about whether Stecker and Associates was best positioned to perform this work, noting a lack of racial diversity in the firm's senior leadership team and limited information available on the firm's website about their experience performing equity audits. We subsequently learned that others in the community have sent an e-blast to their membership, also encouraging them to reach out to us, expressing their concerns on this and related matters. While we are confident that Stecker and Associates has the expertise and experience to perform a high quality equity audit of the district, the DEI committee members also recognize the benefit of reevaluating potential partners for this work to determine whether there's a qualified partner that also represents the diversity within our district. The administration's confirmed that Stecker and Associates will cancel our contract without penalty, and we will therefore re-engage efforts to identify a partner for this work. There's a high demand across school districts for firms with the experience necessary to conduct educational equity audits, and so it should be noted that this decision will delay the completion of the audit, which we plan to begin here in December and conclude before the end of the school year. I also would like to add that an equity audit seeks to evaluate equity in education through a truly inclusive lens, and that's one that evaluates equity in terms of race and ethnicity, disability status, gender identity, income, sexual orientation, and more. And so as we work to identify a new partner for our equity audit, I want to assure everyone that we'll be evaluating candidates through this broad and inclusive lens moving forward. We thank the community and those who reached out to us directly to have this conversation. It was an important conversation, and we do appreciate that.
Great, thank you, Kelly, for that update. And just to let everyone know in terms of our remaining actions for this evening, so we will adjourn this reorganization meeting in a moment, and then we'll have everyone stay on for a special meeting to cover one item for action this evening. So we'll do that in a moment. Before doing so, this is, this meeting is our annual reorganization meeting, and it does feel like the first step toward wrapping up the year 2020. And I think we can all agree that 2020 has been an exceptionally difficult year, certainly one of the most difficult years our district has faced. Families and students are up against extraordinary challenges. Our teachers, I think, as our called-in comment said earlier, are having to reinvent over and over again to adapt to these times. And I know our administrative team is working harder than ever to lead through this rapidly evolving situation. But I don't get a chance to say this publicly enough, but I want to give some special thanks to my fellow board members. This is not an easy job right now. I know many of you are giving a great deal of your time. I'm really appreciative of all of your contributions. We certainly have a lot of work to do together, and as work we will do in partnership with our district leaders, staff, and our community. We do have a great team, and I think we will make great progress. And when we turn the calendar to 2021, which is just a few weeks away, I am hopeful we can begin to slowly return to some of the routines we enjoyed back in February before COVID arrived. It will be one step at a time, but I think we do at this point have reason to be hopeful. Vaccines are on the horizon. This winter surge that we're going through will be hard, but I think we can all see there is a light at the end of the tunnel now. And a few months ago, that tunnel felt very long, and it certainly feels shorter today. But we do have still some difficult months ahead to get through this winter. I'll also say that, I know that emotions can be raw during times like this. Again, we're up against big challenges. And my hope, I know, again, we're not quite to 2021 yet, but my hope is that in 2021, we can come together to make this great school district, which is the core of our community, even better. We need to work with one another. We need to collaborate, and we need to take on these challenges and overcome them together. And I look forward to working together with all of you, with everyone in the district, and all of our families over the next year in partnership. So thank you, all of you. So with that, I am going to, again, adjourn this meeting, but right after that, don't go anywhere. We are going to begin a new meeting. So this meeting is adjourned. And now I call to order the December 7th special meeting of the Wallingford-Swarthmore School Board to order. And in opening, again, as you're willing and able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Ms. Fagora, that takes us back to our roll call. So let's take another roll call. You're muted.
Thank you. I apologize. Mr. Ballas,
Here.
Ms. Amino,
Here.
Dr. Downey,
Here.
Dr. Huff,
Here.
Mr. Cudis,
Here.
Mrs. Lentz,
Here.
Mr. Sullivan,
Here.
Mrs. Walkman,
Here.
Dr. Grandy,
Here.
Mr. Berman,
I'm here.
Dr. Palmer,
Here.
Dr. Grandy, you have 9 voting members present.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to audience recognition for response to items for action on this special meeting agenda. I do not believe we have any. Can we confirm that, Kelly?
That is correct.
Okay. So our single item for action is in personnel, which is the approval of the proposed 2021-2024 collective bargaining agreement between the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District and the Wallingford-Swarthmore Education Association, effective July 21st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024 as stipulated. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kelly Walkman.
Thank you, Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second,
Marilyn Huff.
Jerry Ballas.
I think I've got Marilyn there. So any discussion? All right, Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Ms. Amino,
Aye.
Dr. Downey,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cudis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to the end of our special meeting. Again, I want to thank all of you. We will be back in 1 week. So I will see you all then for our next regular business.
Dr. Graney, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I had my hand raised after the other public comments were read. And I was just wondering, since I don't see any area for new business tonight, if we could talk just very briefly, address why this board is not slated to discuss the performing arts and why we are asked to discuss sports, so that the community can understand a little bit better why we are discussing sports and why we are not discussing performing arts and those other types of clubs and activities. I don't know if Dr. Palmer would be best to answer that question, but I think it's something that would be valuable if the community understood why those conversations are and are not happening in these board meetings.
Well, I can jump in there and I can let Dr. Palmer jump in if she'd like. But I think we are planning on having that discussion a week from now at our next board meeting. I think that there was certainly some unique safety issues that had some pressure to address related to athletics that I think ended up consuming a fair amount of discussion. But I do want to come back to other extracurricular activities more broadly, including the performing arts, and get an update from the district to the board and the community a week from today.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. Anything else? Otherwise, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.